From our Toronto studios, this is the Muslim News on Muslim Network TV. Assalamu alaikum, I am Ahmed Ramadan. South Africa is investigating how a group of Palestinians arrived in Johannesburg via a charter flight and why the travel process appears deceptive. The news comes as a flight carrying 150 Palestinians with no visas or exit stamps landed in the country. Critics are calling the incident Israel's latest attempt to cleanse the Gaza Strip. Border police held the passengers on the aircraft for hours as officials struggled to confirm identities and travel routes. Foreign Minister Ronald Lamola has dismissed Israeli claims that the passengers held valid visas. President Cyril Ramaphosa later allowed the group to enter on humanitarian grounds, saying compassion must guide South Africa's response. Some aid workers have revealed the families were taken out of Gaza through an Israeli military base. The logistics were arranged via an Israeli-linked private organization called Al Majd Europe. Many believed they were being sent to India or Indonesia. Media reports say a similar flight landed quietly in South Africa last month, arranged through the same intermediaries. Experts warn these practices violate international law and amount to unlawful transfer. A full investigation is underway. A U.S. jury in California has ordered Apple to pay $634 million to Masimo, a medical monitoring company. This comes as Masimo accuses Apple of poaching staff and copying its pulse oximetry technology. The jury says the blood oxygen features in the Apple Watch violate Masimo's patent. Masimo says the verdict confirms its fight to protect its technology. Apple has announced it will appeal. The tech giant argues Masimo has challenged more than 25 patents over the years, most of which were dismissed. The company officials say the patent in this case expired in 2022. A U.S. trade tribunal blocked imports of Apple's Series 9 and Ultra 2 watches last year over the same patent concerns. Apple later removed the blood oxygen feature to avoid the ban. It was later reintroduced with an updated version after U.S. Customs approval. President Donald Trump says House Republicans should vote to release all documents related to Jeffrey Epstein, changing his earlier stance on the controversy. Trump had spent months urging Republicans to block the move. In a post on Truth Social this past Sunday, Trump wrote, "We have nothing to hide," and called the controversy a Democrat hoax. He urged his party to move on. The shift comes after Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene refused Trump's demand to vote against the release. 4 Republicans joined Democrats last week to force a vote set for Tuesday. Lawmakers now expect strong bipartisan support. Republican Thomas Massie says he hopes for a veto-proof majority, warning colleagues that opposing the release would mean protecting pedophiles. Epstein died allegedly by suicide in a New York jail in 2019 while awaiting trial. His survivors continue to seek justice. Hundreds of New Yorkers are backing Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani's plan to tax the rich. Supporters gathered this past Sunday at Union Square, calling for universal childcare, free buses, a rent freeze, and city-run grocery stores. The rally was organized by local progressive groups who say Mamdani's cost of living agenda needs a strong movement behind it. Speakers urged Albany lawmakers to make the wealthy pay more. More than 12,000 people donated, with small contributions averaging $77. The office contrasted the effort with previous mayors who relied on far fewer but wealthier donors. Mamdani thanked supporters, saying every day New Yorkers are helping shape a more affordable city. His team says his transition has raised $1 million in just 10 days. The transition team says the funds will help recruit talent before Mamdani takes office on January 1st. Official data shows nearly all immigrants detained in recent Chicago raids had no criminal record. There were 614 people on the list, with only 16 having previous record offenses. The Trump administration insists the raids focus on the worst of the worst, but the figures from the Department of Justice tell a different story. Most detainees were ordinary workers, including landscapers, taxi drivers, day laborers, and parents. A federal judge ordered the government to release details after finding multiple arrests may have violated a 2022 consent decree. 13 people were freed immediately. The judge says more releases could follow. Advocates say the raids have torn families apart and created fear across Chicago's neighborhoods. They accused federal agents of ignoring due process and targeting people simply for their appearance. Community anger grew on Friday when police arrested 21 protesters outside a Broadview detention center. U.S. President Donald Trump has issued another round of pardons. One of them is a second pardon for Daniel Wilson, a January 6th rioter already cleared once before. The White House says Wilson deserved a new pardon because his latter case stemmed from the Capitol attack. Wilson had spent 12 minutes inside the Capitol wearing a gas mask. Prosecutors said he sent messages urging others to join the chaos. In a statement, Wilson thanked Trump. His lawyer said the ruling that sent him back to prison was vindictive. Former U.S. pardon attorney Liz Oyer warned the new clemency sends a dangerous signal. This comes as Trump also pardoned Suzanne K., convicted of threatening FBI agents, and Joseph Schwartz, guilty of major tax fraud. Critics say the decision shows Trump's supporters are above the law. Experts say the wave of pardons undermines accountability for the January 6 attack. U.S. Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib has introduced a resolution to formally recognize Israel's assault on Gaza as genocide. Details coming up next. U.S. Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib has introduced a resolution to formally recognize Israel's assault on Gaza as genocide. The measure is backed by 21 Democratic lawmakers. It urges Washington to meet its obligations under the Genocide Convention. The resolution cites UN findings and legal definitions of genocide. It calls for an immediate halt to all arms transfer to Israel and investigations into individuals and corporations accused of aiding atrocities. Tlaib says impunity has fueled further violence. She argues that U.S. weapons are enabling war crimes and the killing of Palestinian children. Since October 2023, the United States has sent more than $21 billion in military aid to Israel and approved more than $30 billion in new weapons sales. The United Nations estimates more than 69,000 Palestinians have been killed in Gaza, including more than 20,000 children. An earlier UN inquiry has concluded Israeli authorities are committing genocide in the besieged enclave. The Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program is back after the shutdown, but with major changes. New rules are now sharply tightening eligibility. The United States Department of Agriculture says previous recipients should reapply to find out if they qualify for the new criteria. The new rules include all able-bodied adults under 65 working at least 80 hours a month, studying or attending training to be eligible for the program. Veterans, homeless people, and youth leaving foster care cannot surpass the rules. Many green card holders face a 5-year wait. Immigrant eligibility is restricted, while refugees and asylum seekers will not be eligible for the program. States must also meet strict area limits, raising fears that about 300,000 people could lose access nationwide. Congress approved the changes in its summer bill. Estimates show federal spending on SNAP will drop by $186 billion over the next decade. Neuroscientists have identified a rare group of immune cells that may help slow aging. The discovery centers on a special subset of T helper cells that increases as people grow older. These cells appear to be harmful to the cells which have stopped dividing but do not die, also known as senescent cells. They are responsible for building up the body and speeding up aging. Researchers at Ben Gurion University say these T helper cells shift in function with age. Their levels may reveal a person's biological age, which can differ from their actual age. A similar cell type was found in the Japanese population older than 110 years, suggesting it may help maintain a healthier immune balance in old age. Experiments in mice showed that reducing these cells caused faster aging and shorter lifespans. The study published in Nature Aging challenges the idea that younger immune system is always better. These cells may hold clues for future treatments targeting longevity and age-related diseases. Palestinian factions say a new U.S. plan for an international force in Gaza threatens to place the territory under foreign control. The group say the draft resolution at the UN would hand Gaza's administration and reconstruction to an external body. They warn it would strip Palestinians of the right to make their own decisions. They insist all aid and humanitarian work must go through Palestinian institutions under UN oversight. They also reject any move to disarm resistance groups. They say weapons are a national issue tied to ending the Israeli occupation and creating a Palestinian state. They warn that a foreign force would end up coordinating with Israel and undermine Palestinian sovereignty. They say no international bases or trusteeship should be allowed. The factions call for Israel's accountability and back an Arab Islamic framework run by independent Palestinian technocrats. Israeli forces killed a 15-year-old Palestinian boy during a raid on the Al-Fari'a refugee camp in the West Bank on Sunday. The Palestinian Health Ministry reports the teen was shot as Israeli forces moved into the camp south of Tubas. 2 others were hit by shrapnel. Medics said a third injured youth died after ambulances were blocked from reaching him. Witnesses say the troops used heavy live fire, sparking clashes across the camp. In Jenin, 2 Palestinians were injured after an Israeli military vehicle rammed a taxi on Haifa Street and pushed it into another car. Israeli settler violence in the occupied West Bank has continued to climb since the Gaza genocide began in October 2023. More than 1,073 Palestinians have been killed and more than 10,700 injured in army and settler attacks. The International Court of Justice ruled last July that Israel's occupation is illegal and called for all settlements in the West Bank and East Jerusalem to be removed. The United Nations says the suffering of families fleeing recent violence in Western Sudan is unspeakable. The comments come after UN Aid Chief Tom Fletcher visited a camp in Tawila near the city of El Fasher, where fighting has intensified. Fletcher says more than half of the people escaping war are children. More than 99,000 people have fled the area since late October. Sudan has been engulfed in a brutal war since April 2023 between the National Army and the Rapid Support Forces, a powerful paramilitary group. The RSF seized control of El Fasher last month after heavy fighting has been accused of crimes against humanity. The conflict has killed at least 40,000 people and forced 12 million from their homes. The UN is urging urgent global action. Syria's transitional government says its probe into deadly July clashes in the southern province of Suwaida is still underway. The region is home to a large Druze community. The violence has left hundreds dead and thousands displaced. Judge Hatem al-Nassan told reporters in Damascus a committee is working to uncover the full truth and ensure justice for victims. He says the violence caused deaths, displacement, and major damage and needs a thorough legal investigation. Teams have visited sites across the Damascus countryside, Idlib, Suwaida, and Dar'a. They have collected evidence, interviewed survivors, and examined cases of detainees, missing people, and abductions. Officials say anyone found responsible will face justice. Findings will go to the Justice Ministry and be released publicly. Bangladesh's Special War Crimes Court has sentenced former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina and ex-Home Minister Asaduzzaman Khan Kamal to death. They have been found guilty of crimes against humanity during the 2024 July uprising. The International Crimes Tribunal delivered the verdict on Monday after months of hearings. Former police chief Chowdhury Abdullah al-Ma'moon received 5 years after confessing and was later pardoned for giving a full account of events. Judges said all three held responsibility for killings, torture, and the use of lethal force against student protesters. The tribunal cited Hasina's various remarks, ruling that her incitement and inaction amounted to crimes against humanity. During her tenure, this tribunal system was used by Hasina to execute her political opponents. Hasina and Kamal fled to India during last year's mass revolt. Dhaka has now called on New Delhi to hand them over so they can face punishment. Experts say India is obligated to do so under the bilateral extradition treaty with Bangladesh. Bangladesh's foreign ministry is warning India that granting asylum to individuals convicted of crimes against humanity would be extremely unfriendly behavior. Israel has carried out new attacks in Gaza despite the ongoing ceasefire. In a blatant breach, a drone strike killed a man in Beit Lahia in the northwest. In Gaza City, several people, including a child, were wounded when an Israeli quadcopter dropped an explosive on civilians. Flooding has added to the suffering. Camps and tent settlements across Gaza are underwater. UNRWA says 13,000 families who lost their homes during 2 years of bombardment are now enduring cold, rain, and severe shortages in flimsy shelters. The crisis comes as the UN Security Council prepares to vote on a United States-backed plan for an international peacekeeping force in Gaza. Human rights groups say conditions are worsening behind bars as well. At least 98 Palestinians from Gaza have died in Israeli prisons since October 2023. Most were civilians. Many deaths appeared linked to torture, medical neglect, or starvation. Israel's genocidal war on Gaza has killed at least 69,483 Palestinians and wounded over 170,000 since October 2023. That's all from our Toronto studios. Thank you for watching Muslim News. We are a community channel dedicated to bringing you stories you can trust. Please like, share, and subscribe to our content. You can also comment to let us know what you think of our coverage. You can donate now by visiting muslimnetwork.tv/donate. For more content, keep watching Muslim Network TV. Salam.